So there we go. So we're going to talk about how to bind your zine when, oh, here's the infomercial part. Okay, the infomercial part is this. Does this ever happen to you? Oh, my stapler, it can't reach the spine. What do I do? Oh, or for instance, the COVID zine, which we made, it's too thick. This little stapler won't do it. So what do you do then? Well, you can do a little saddle stitch, which is a different, oh no, which is a different way of binding. It looks like this. You can kind of see, it looks, it can be colorful depending on what your strings are you use, and it's nice, gives it a kind of a different look. So I'm going to just go through a step-by-step process, and you can, I put on the website under the description of my my description of the workshop, printable PDF. So it will, sorry again for that motion sickness. And I have this for you guys, so you can peruse it. Everything I talk about is in here. And I got this really awesome diagram as well. So yeah, let's start with the materials you need to do a saddle stitch. So you need your zine. The 8.5 by 11 folded zine is like one of the most typical kinds, and that's what I'm going to show. But you can do this with any kind of paper. Just have to make sure you get the measurements right. So need a ruler, string. You can use basically, oh, it looks like it's, there we go. It looks like you can use any kind of thread. Like this is just a regular thread that you use for sewing. This is embroidery floss. And then this is something that's called wax thread, and people use this in leather work. And then the next important part is your needle, which the most important thing it needs to do is be able to string, be able to, the eye needs to be big enough to, let's see, that's not going to focus, it's fine, to thread, or to put the thread through. So it's only the most important thing. So you can use like a smaller one that you'd use for sewing, or you can use these big honking ones, which are sometimes called embroidery needles or leather work needles. And then also recommend having binder clips, a pencil, and then the last piece, which is optional, but I highly recommend, is an awl, which I think someone put in the box. So this is a guy that will help you create the holes, and there's something that's really satisfying it, because you can just go like, well, kind of, you can do like, it's just so easy. You could do that forever, and that's fun. I like this one, which, because I'm kind of accident prone and very cautious, this is a cool one because you can kind of like suck it up into itself, and so then, oh, ow, that hurt, but this doesn't hurt. So those are the materials, and yeah, let's get started. So move this up to the side. So once you have your zine, open up to the middle, and I like to use these binder clips. Just helps things stay in place. And then you take one of the needles. So for the thread for this kind, I'm going to use this, the waxed one, and for an 8.5 by 11 zine, I'd recommend maybe just using like a foot and a half at the most, just so you have a lot of, oh, we need scissors as well, so So about like that. I'm gonna thread it behind the scenes. Okay, so you got this threaded, good to go. And then we're gonna measure out where we want our holes. So if you're using this kind of paper, the standard size, you're gonna do one that's in the middle at, well, let me do it this way, this is easier. So I have marked out in a zine exactly the numbers that, the measurements that you'll need for your dots. So you go basically 1 inch and 3/4 in for your first dot, and then you're gonna do 1 1/4 inches increments for the next 4 dots. So that's gonna be 3 for the next one, and then we're gonna do a 4.25, and then we're gonna do a 5.5, and then we're gonna do a, let's see, 6.75. So we got our nice dots. Just so it's a little easier, I'm going to use a darker marker just so you can follow with the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now we're ready to start. So we have our threaded needle, and oh, you know, I'm going to use the awl because I have that. So let me do that. Just forget the thread needle and just poke through each of those holes. Extremely satisfying. And you can see the holes on the back. Well, you can't, but you can imagine that the holes went all the way through. So if you don't have an awl and you just have a needle or something else that's maybe a little dull or something, you can still do this, but you might need to do the step of measuring and like on each page. So you might have to, because you have thick paper, like on the cover, if you have really thick cover paper, you might need to do that one, do the measuring, do each hole. This is something I struggled with when I worked on the COVID zine, and I needed to, it was a little frustrating to figure out, but yeah, it's a good way to get around that problem. Okay, now we can start doing the threading part.
Hey, Bethany.
Yeah?
Is there a particular diameter of your awl?
I do not know, but I can look up after the fact. Well, let me see. How do I do that?
That was a question that someone posted in the chat.
Awesome. Okay. Let's say the hole is like a 1/16 of an inch.
Great.
Let's go with that.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so now we can finally thread through. So you're going to start with your center hole and bring your guy not all the way through. You want to have a little left over because that's what you're going to be tying with. And if you don't want to have to keep making sure this doesn't go anywhere, you can also use like tape, which maybe I'll do. If I can get some tape. Let's help that stay there. Cool. Okay, so now we have it through. Flip around. And we're going to go through hole number 2. And when you pull that all the way through, you're going to have your first stitch. There's going to be a lot of flipping in this, and I know like Zoom tends to blur stuff, so sorry about that. And then you're going to go out, go through 1, gives you that second stitch, flip back over, you're going to go back to 2. And you can see, look how beautiful this is already. This is so gorgeous. And then you're going to be really tempted to want to go through hole 3. I know you guys are. Like, it's just like, it's right there. You'd be like, 1, 2, 3. No, don't do it. Don't let yourself do that. Go through 4. And you have this longer stitch piece. Flip back over, and then you're going to go out to 5. And then flip back over. You're going to go to 4, all the way through. And then we just have our last stitch. So yeah, just bring that. Now you can finally get the sweet release of putting the needle through the center hole, the one that you wanted to put in before. And that's the last stitch. So the thread might come out like, there might be 2 pieces over here or something, but what you're gonna wanna do is make sure that you have, this is the tying portion. So make sure you have one on this side as well. And you're just gonna do a little knot around that, another little knot, and then take the scissors, which have fallen off of your table, and cut it. Take off these little bindy clips and wait for it. Okay. Boom. Look at that. Look at that beautiful saddle stitch. And then you just flip through. Really satisfying. It's beautiful. It makes you look like you're really advanced. And also just like, I use black for this, but it can really add like a nice like pop of color or whatever, you know. It's a nice way to, if you can only afford, or you only have black and white zines, to add like another cool part of that. And so for this thick zine, it's just so satisfying that like the pages are really stable and it's not like crunched anywhere. Yeah, so that's the basic, that's the stitch. And I did a 5-hole version, but you can do a 7-hole, which I have in the second to last page of, you can't really see it when it's focusing, but basically I have a diagram that helps you then do that stitch. And so that's, you can do different measurements there. And then the best part of the zine is it has a built-in ruler, which is to size. So you don't even have to have a ruler. You didn't have to have that ruler that I just talked about. You just have to have the zine, one less thing. There you go. Okay, any questions?
Every time I laughed at one of your comments, my Zoom was reminding me that I was on mute. So I just want you to know that I was laughing and you couldn't hear it. But this was such an informative tutorial. Thank you for walking us through that. I'm looking at the chat box to see if there are any questions coming through, and mostly just people expressing delight that it wasn't super long, that it was pretty fast.
Yeah. I was pretty intimidated at first when I first learned this. Like I and I also didn't have the right tools the first time. I just had, not the right tools, but I had like just regular thread. I was making a little tiny book for my mom that was like thick, and the staples was the issue. And I also wanted to look nice. And so, yeah, I just used the regular thread and the needle.
That's awesome. Someone is asking, where can they buy the saddle stitch a guide?
So it's free on our website under the description.
Okay.
And yeah, you can print it out and use it there.
Thanks for offering a free resource.
Yeah.
And someone is asking about needles.
Okay, so I think you can get them at like a craft store or something.
Cool.
I ordered mine online. I wanted to get these. I was using just regular, like other needles I had, but I decided I'd treat myself to these nice pointy ones. So I just got these online, and actually it was in like a book binding kit or something, so it came with them, but they're just called leather working needles, and they should have those at like a Michael's or any other kind of place like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, tapestry needles are pretty good too. Yeah.
Cool. Are you seeing that question about thicker weight paper?
Yeah. So this is the thickest paper, and I can look and see how thick it is that I've tried. It is, okay, It's 65-pound, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can I focus on this?
So just, oh yeah, some cardstock paper.
But you can, I mean, I don't see why you couldn't do with anything thicker. I mean, I think you could do like, as long as you can fold the cardboard in half or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and have a strong enough, poking tool, that could be cool. I also saw, I don't know if anyone else went to the unique zine structures panel today, our workshop, but I could see how you could integrate these like stitching kind of elements into that. And so just like, adding some more creative things. I like sewing in general. And so that is just like, that made me think about that too.
Cool. Let's see. I don't see any more questions coming in. And I know, is there something coming up at 5? Can't remember.
Yeah, there's the
panel to promote.
Auto-bio zine, that one.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, just want to plug that if folks haven't already, check out dczinefest.com for all of our tables and our merchandise. Oh, yes. How can we follow you, Bethany? Or is there?
Okay. Yeah. You can follow me at, I can even type in the chat box. Let's see. At Little Gum Gum 666. For smaller zines, yeah, I still use 5 holes just because you can just make them really close together. But I think it provides better stability. But you could also just treat it as if it's 2 staples. If you just don't happen to have, you could do just 2 stitches if you wanted to.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll get off here and I'll jump back into the normal way I had this.
Okay. Thank you.